Hello, welcome to Guided by the Iron Rod. I'm Thurl Jessup. If you know of someone who may benefit from this video, like, subscribe, tap bell, and please share it. Also, I welcome your uplifting thoughts in the comments below. Your words are always appreciated. I want to show you how I calculate the ages of Israel and his children. Who is Israel? Jacob. See Genesis 35, specifically verse 10. Let's get started. I call this Jacob and Children's Age Chart. To help us see Jacob and his children's ages, we will need to develop this chart. You can do this in several ways. The most basic is with a piece of paper and a pencil or pen. And if you want it to look somewhat reasonable, you can draw your lines with a ruler. The more sophisticated way is using some software for your computer like Excel or OpenOffice Calc. This video is not about how to obtain these, so you need to do your own research to use these. I will make some assumptions here. You know how to make basic calculations either using paper and pencil or calculator. Also, you know how to operate your computer and you know how to use your software of choice. I will show you how to set up this chart in OpenOffice Calc. This is not a video on how to use it. If you need help with that, you will need to do your own research. Switching views. Okay, in column B, row 1, put in Jacob and children's ages chart. Okay, skip a line. In column C, row 3, type in Reuben. Reuben. Okay. Now in column A, row 4, type in Reuben. Okay. Where Reuben and Reuben intersect, put in 0. In column A, row 4, type Jacob, Jacob's age. Right here, put in Jacob, married. Now we need to do a little bit of formatting. Let's highlight both of these. We want them cells. We want this to be center, vertical to be middle, and we want wrap text automatically. Okay. Now we can shrink this down a little bit. Okay. So basically what that is going to be, actually I made a mistake here. Reuben wants to be on row 5. So delete this one. We actually want this to say Jacob. Jacob's age. Format. Center. Middle. Wrap. Okay. Delete that one. Okay. So there we go. That's better. Now next to Reuben here, next to Reuben, we want to put in Simeon. Next to D3, that's Simeon. A6 is going to be Simeon. And where Simeon and Simeon intersects, D6, that wants to be 0. Now I'm going to shrink these down, make them a little easier. Okay, next to Simeon is going to be Levi. Next to Simeon is going to be, under Simeon is going to be Levi. So A7 is going to be Levi. E3 is going to be Levi. Where Levi and Levi intersect, E7 is going to be 0. Write that down. Next to Levi is going to be Judah. Underneath Levi is going to be Judah. So A8 is going to be Judah. F3 is going to be Judah. Where Judah and Judah intersect, F8 is going to be 0. And we're going to shrink this column down. Okay, now these 4, their mother is Leah. So we want to merge, center, and type Leah. Okay. Next to Judah, we want to put Dan. Underneath in G3, in A9, underneath Judah, put in Dan. Where Dan and Dan intersect, G9, put in 0. Shrink this down. Next to Dan, we have Naphtali. H3 is Naphtali. A10 is Naphtali. Where Naphtali and Naphtali intersect, H10 is 0. And we will shrink this down. Now, Dan and Naphtali's mother is Bilhah. We want to merge that, center it, Bilhah. Bilhaa. Okay. Next to Naphtali is going to be Gad. In I3 is going to be Gad. In A11 is going to be Gad. Where Gad and Gad intersect, I11 is going to be 0. Let's shrink this down. Next to Gad is going to be Asher. Underneath Gad, let's see, J3 is going to be Asher. A12 is going to be Asher. Where Asher and Asher intersect, J12 is going to be 0. Let's shrink this down. Next to Asher is going to be Issachar. Issachar. That's in K3. In A13, that wants to be Issachar. Where Issachar and Issachar intersect, K13, that wants to be 0. We will shrink this down a little bit. Okay, one more thing here. Gad and Asher, their mother is Zilpah. Bilhah is Rachel's handmaid. Zilpah is Leah's handmaid. Okay, next to Issachar is going to be Zebulon. Zebulun. Underneath Issachar is going to be Zebulun. Where Zebulun and Zebulun intersect, it's going to be L14. That wants to be 0. We will shrink this down. Next to Zebulun wants to be Dinah. Dinah is the only daughter that is mentioned by name, but the scripture says that Jacob had daughters. So underneath Zebulun in column A, Dinah, where Dinah and Dinah intersect, M15 is 0. Let's shrink this down. These three, their mother was Leah again. And I'm putting these in order that they were born. Next to Dinah is Joseph. And underneath Dinah is Joseph. Where Joseph and Joseph intersect, N16 is going to be 0. Next to Joseph is going to be Benjamin. And then underneath Joseph over here is going to be Benjamin. Okay, let's shrink these down. Okay, we're Benjamin and Benjamin. That's going to be O17. That wants to be 0. Okay, now next to Benjamin, we want to put Joseph, slavery. Now let's format the next 4 columns. We're going to do 4 more columns. So cells, center, middle, wrap. Okay. Now we can shrink this down so that it fits better. Column Q3 is going to be Jacob, Egypt. That's going to be when Jacob was sold in, or Jacob came to Egypt during the famine. This is going to be Jacob dies. This one is going to be Joseph dies. Now we can shrink these together. Okay, so there are certain things that we know for sure. Joseph was sold into Egypt after he was 17 years old. According to the scriptures, there was a time difference for when Joseph was tending his sheep with his brothers and when they decided to kill him, then decided to sell him. So I made an educated guess that this would make Joseph 18 when he was sold into Egypt. Another thing we know, Joseph was 30 years old when Pharaoh made Joseph the number 2 man in Egypt, and that began the 7 years of plenty. We also know that it was 2 years after the famine started that Jacob brought his family into Egypt. Another thing we know is Jacob was 130 when he came to Egypt and was 147 when he died. We also know that Joseph died when he was 110 years old. So now with all these numbers, let's start filling them in. So Joseph was sold into Egypt when he was 18. So we can put 18 there. We also know that Jacob was 130 when he came into Egypt. We also know that he was 147 when he died. We also know that Joseph was 110 when he died. Okay, so now, one more thing. Right up here, we need to add references. Okay, and you can make this as big as you want, but it just needs to hold a scripture reference. So Joseph dies. I am going to put it here. This is Genesis. That is in Benjamin here. Joseph dies. Genesis 50, 22, and 26. It tells of Joseph's death. So now I'm going to format this again. Cells. And I'm going to grab this right here and I'm going to turn it. $270. Okay. Let's do some little more formatting. Let's turn this to center and middle. There, that's better. So when Joseph dies, that's the reference for it. Now, there are some calculations that we need to do. So when Joseph was 30 at the beginning of the 7 years of plenty, you can find that at Genesis 41, 46. Let's just do this to all of these. Cell 270, center, middle. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we know that Joseph was 30 years old at the beginning of the 7 years of plenty, and 2 years later, Jacob came to Egypt. So 7 plus 2 is 9, plus 30 is 39. That information we know. Okay. The other information that we know is that Joseph was 7 years old when Benjamin was born. Joseph was born in Padan Aram, and 5 years after Joseph was born, Jacob left Padan Aram, and 2 years in the wilderness, Benjamin was born. So that would put Joseph at 7 years old. Okay, so now we need to figure out how old Jacob was when Joseph was sold into Egypt. So there is a formula, and it is 130 minus x plus 18 equals 39. So then we just need to solve for x. So this is going to be x. So x equals 130 plus 18 minus 39. So it's going to be Q4 plus P16 minus Q16. And Joseph was sold into slavery when Jacob was 109. Okay, now we are going to start filling in some other information. Let's do some educated guesses. Let's assume there was a child born every year, and sometimes there was a gap of 2 years. Okay, so let's go back over here so that we can see this chart again. So here we are, Dinah. So Dinah would have been 1 when Joseph was born. Let's go back over. Let's go to this one. Zebulon would have been 1 when Dinah was born. So Issachar, over in the left-hand column, column A, Issachar would have been 1. Issachar would have been 1 when Zebulun was born. Asher would have been 2 when Issachar was born. Gad would have been 2 when Asher was born. Naphtali would have been 1 when Gad was born. Dan would have been 2 when Naphtali was born. Judah would have been 2. Whoop, that's not the right column. Judah would have been 1. Judah would have been 1 when Dan was born. Levi would have been 2. Simeon would have been 1. And Reuben would have been 1 when Simeon was born. Oh, that's in the wrong place. Okay. Get rid of that one. This one wants to be 0. There we go. Okay. Now we have those basic numbers. So now we get to solve some more problems. Now we're trying to figure out the age of Jacob when each child was born. The easiest to calculate is Joseph. So we know that Jacob was 109 when Joseph was sold into slavery. We also know that he was 18, Joseph was 18 when he was sold into slavery. So if we take those two numbers and subtract them, we will get Jacob's age when Joseph was born. Now, we also know that Benjamin is 7 years younger than Joseph. So we take this one and we add this one. This one, and we add this one. Okay, so Jacob, N4 plus 06 would give us 98. Because if we know that Joseph is 91 and we add 7 to it, it's 98, obviously. Okay, so now we can just calculate each one of these based upon this information. Let's come back over here so we can see what we're doing. So to calculate when Jacob was born, or how old Jacob was when Dinah was born, we take Joseph and we subtract yes, that's right. So Jacob would have been 90. Now the rest of these will be easier. So now we take this one and we subtract this one. This one minus this one. This one minus this one. $88 minus 2. I4 minus I10. H4 minus H9. E4 minus G8. E4 minus F4 minus, I don't know why I said what I said. F4 minus F7. There's that one minus that. Okay, I made a mistake. Right here, I have this one here, and this should have been a minus instead of a plus. There, that corrected everything. Reuben would have been equals this minus this. Okay, so we know that Jacob couldn't have been 76 when he got married. It's just simple rules. Anyway, there is our chart. Now we can go through and you can fill in our chart here. Like what we're going to do is take E4 minus D4 plus D5. It will tell us how old Reuben was. when Levi was born. Now we're going to do the same thing. F4 minus E4 plus E5. Okay, and if we just copy this down, it'll do the calculation for us. Now we're starting to see some real numbers coming in here. Okay, let's scroll over a little bit. So when Joseph was sold into slavery into Egypt, Reuben was 33. Judah was 29. Benjamin, no, we didn't get that one calculated because, well, let me just show you. If I copy this down to there, it'll cause a great big fat error. So if I copy that and then paste it in there, then we'll get it right. So we can keep going here. So when Jacob came into Egypt, Reuben was 54, Joseph was 39, blah, blah, blah. Same thing here. If we copy this over that, it'll give us a big fat error. So now we need to paste that. So when Jacob came into Egypt, if you can imagine this, Joseph is 39 years old, Benjamin is 32, and when they came to meet the brothers, when they came to meet Joseph, but they didn't know he was Joseph, these would have been their ages, and and they they hadn't seen each other for quite a few years. This one we can calculate all the way down. Houston, we got a problem. Plus that. Okay, do this over. This minus this plus this. There, that's better. So Reuben was 71 years old when Jacob dies. Joseph was 56. Now we can calculate how old the other brothers would be when Joseph died. So we need to take this number minus this number plus this number. Now we can't just copy this. We have to do something really special with this one. We have to say, do not change these numbers here. Leave those numbers alone. Only change that one number. Now we can copy this. Copy this. Okay, there we go. So these are ages of Reuben when, if he was alive when Joseph died. There is no information about how old the brothers were when Joseph died. Not anything. It only tells Joseph's age. But this just gives you kind of an idea. Okay, now let's fill in some scripture references. Okay, Reuben's birth. Reuben's birth is in Genesis 29:32. Simeon's birth is in Genesis 29:33. Levi's birth is 29:34. Genesis 29 for Judah, 29:35. For Dan, it's going to be 36. For Naphtali, it's going to be 38. For Gad, it's going to be 30:11. For Asher, it's going to be 30:13. For Issachar, it's going to be 30:18. For Zebulon, it's going to be 30:20. For Dinah, it's going to be 30:21. For Joseph, it's going to be 30:24. For Benjamin, it's going to be 35:18. Okay. Now, Isaac, let's just make a block here. Merge that, and let's just fill this in. We want this centered. Isaac died when when Jacob was 120. Genesis 35:28. If you hold down your control key and hit enter, it'll take you to the next line. Joseph 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 was 5 when Jacob left the dam Ram. Padan Aram. Benjamin was born 2 years after Jacob left Padan Aram. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Now let's format it. What puts it in the middle? There we go. Okay, so there's the chart. It just gives you an idea of their different ages, and it gives you some scripture references of where they can be found. So it's just interesting. Thanks for watching.